Hey pilots, thanks for joining me for another Gunpla review. In this review, we're going to be going over the high-grade Gundam FSD full-scale development. This kit is a 2018 high-grade from the Gundam the Origin series. It's a pretty good kit in terms of the line itself. The high-grade Gundam the Origin kits are the high-grade line that I rave the most about, besides the specific kit of the Moon Gundam. Getting right into things, we're going to talk about the ease of cleanup and assembly of the kit. Now, the actual cleanup of the kit was challenging. I will say that much. There are a lot of seam lines, and I'll be posting some about here the entirety while I talk about this. There were seam lines at the legs on the shield parts, or there were seam lines on the legs that were really difficult to get to, or get off of the kit. And even on the feet, there were nub marks where there was difficulty in even removing or shaping up those nub marks. Now, moving on to the shield, that's the problem. There is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on here, but there are sand lines. If I kind of showed that reflection right there, you can see that I've sanded the entirety of the length of the shield and even on the inside there. That was the most painstaking task on this. I sanded down some of the lines in the joints here. I'll probably post some pictures of that on here too, so you guys can get a closer look at what they look like. But those weren't that bad. I basically hit those with 600 really quickly and then 1K to kind of even it out, and they were good. But most of the bad seam lines came from either the weapons or and annoying seam lines, I should say, came from the weapons and came from that leg area. And talking about some of the weapon ones too, here on the Gatling, these are two separate pieces that are joined up, and there is a seam line that runs through the center of both of them. They didn't print it on the side where they could try to get rid of seam lines per se, and that was kind of a pain. And even the entirety of the belt had a seam line across the entirety of the middle. So, and it's a flexible part, so I had to take a hobby knife and be extremely careful and trim that up the best I possibly could to get rid of those seam lines. That was probably the worst part of the kit because it took me the longest, having to be very careful with the knife. But that's all I'm going to say on the cleanup, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and the pictures here will help you guys kind of see some of that. Now, these are post-sanding, so it might be a little difficult, but you'll at least know the areas of the kit so you'll have difficulty with before purchasing the kit, hopefully. Now, for assembly, went together fine. I didn't have any issues. I did have some polycap issues with fitting, but that's, hit or miss. That's really dependent on the polycap printing. It's not exclusive to the kit, because it was definitely the polycaps causing those issues, and that's just a simple, quick little maneuver with the hobby knife and you're good. Yeah, this kit went together like a dream. I had no problems. Now, moving on to the gimmicks of the kit, we'll be looking at those a little closer with the camera, so I'll be right back. Now, moving on to the gimmicks of the kit, there are really a lot of cool little gimmicks. So this shield here folds and goes up, and it can even be moved here, so it's kind of in a better position once it is unfolded. So that's pretty neat. It's also a really big shield. I actually kind of like it, and I like this whole folding thing. I don't know why that's not used in more kits. Also on here, I do have one of the cannons on here, and this is from my original Gundam the Origin RX-78-2. And then this one comes with the kit. So that's kind of sweet too, that the backpack back here, one, has 5 thrusters. So it's kind of more of a high mobility backpack than even the actual RX-78-2. And these cannons kind of interface into the side here. So it's almost like your normal RX-78-2 Gundam the Origin kit anyway. And you can see right here some of the interface holes. So you can actually mount beam saber holders like so into that hole, which is really, really nice. Because then it gives you options to customize it, and it also gives you an entry point for if you have some of the build fighter customization kits, you can actually use it on this as well. The Gatling gimmick is kind of cool because one, it comes with this belt that can be fed through, so you have an actual ammo belt hooked up to a drum on the back here, or you have the option of taking out that belt and putting in a detachable magazine, which again is really cool because it gives you a lot of options of what you want to do if you don't want to deal with the whole belt and the flexibility of it, or you're worried about it, or you just want a standalone wrist weapon. It gives you that option. There's also another option here of a more 8th MS team type shield for some of the ground types, which is kind of sweet too, and it even has a stand that kicks out here, and you can place it up. But the really cool part that I like about this and the gimmicks of this kit is the beam sabers right here. So that's really sick. I really like the fact that you can mount them here, and it gives another option. You can also mount them onto the wrist part here where that the shield attaches to. So let me take this off real quick. So now you can put the beam sabers here, which is nice because it has kind of like wrist mounted beam sabers depending on how you orient it. And it also acts as a shield mount for both this and this. So you can put all these shields on, and it's actually fairly easy. Now, this kit does come with one of the prototype machine guns. I believe there's still 100 millimeters. I'm not sure. But it comes with one of the prototypic machine guns. I don't like this one. It seems almost too big for what they're going for. And it seems a little finicky. But what I really don't like is the stock on here. The stock has a ton of seam lines in really odd spaces, and I didn't even know where to begin to clean them up. So beware of that. Now, it does come with a couple hand options. It's really just the trigger finger hand, like so. That all situated. So you just get an old trigger finger hand for either the 100 millimeter prototype machine gun, or for any of the other Gundam the Origin type weapons. This being an example, which I'm probably going to pair up with it, is the prototype beam rifle from the RX-78-2 Origin. And then it just comes with a bunch of fist ones. Now, the problem is that even though these beam sabers are slotted to go on these, there is no slot on the fist hands. So they just kind of sit in there. So again, be beware when you're posing the kit to ensure that it's in a position where the beam saber won't fall out. Now for the color separation, it's pretty good. It's really only black and gray, besides any of the decals. But there is no color correction stickers, which is awesome. They're all straight decals, which I'm impressed with on any type of kit. The surface details are really good. I'm trying to use the light here to kind of show them off, since it is an all black kit, or blackish kit, kind of like a really, really dark gray. But there's a lot of really good details. You can even see those panel lines in the calf area and how they feed into even the side of the calf armor. And even some of the details on the thigh areas are really nice. And in the upper torso, you're kind of just getting those traditional details that an RX-78 has. And the shoulders have some detailing. And these are pretty much traditional. There's not a lot of details there. And the backpack itself has a lot of really nice detailing in there. And the head. It's kind of hard to see some of the details on the head here. There we go. You can kind of get it in that shot. But all in all, it's a Gundam the Origin kit that has really good surface details, as you'd expect from the series. Now, the articulation is pretty good. You can get a lot of really good posability out of it. The only issue that I really saw for this kit is this area, because it's not on an actual separate ankle joint, like the RX-78-2 Origin type. This is its own one armor piece, but this part still kind of bends. There's a ball joint in there that you can see now. And even the foot itself has really good articulation here. So you can get a lot out of it still. You just got to be a little more careful when posing it. Make sure you're not torquing it so you break that peg. Just be very, 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 very careful on that foot area. But all in all, the arm and the leg articulation is pretty sick, which you would expect out of an Origins kit. The shoulders raised to a pretty good point. You can even get the arm, yeah, let's say an arm to like an extreme angle past that 90-degree section. The head has forward and back movement. Has forward and back movement here. It can turn on a dime. And then I believe it even kind of pivots. No, it does not pivot left and right. But this is pretty good. I would say maybe tighten up the head joint a little bit. Depending on how loose yours is. Mine is at least stable, but I would like it to be a little tighter to hold some posing. But it's pretty good. And even with the galling on this hand, you can still move it up. You can still move it forward. You just gotta take your time with it and don't let things run into each other like you're kind of seeing here. If you're not careful, you'll have the shoulder piece kind of run into the gun here. That's just all simple of, you can kind of remove it and get it to a point where you like it, and then put this piece back in at any position that you want it to be in. Yeah, I think this is one of the more posable high grades that I've worked with besides some of the other Origin ones and the Moon Gundam. It's still very, very good. You can get some really cool poses with it. And especially if you have an action base where you can kind of have it in the air doing some stuff. It's really, really sweet. Now I'm treating this more like a ground type, so I'm not as concerned with that, but it'll still help with posing and keeping that stability of the pose. The legs still also have some forward articulation, but really the torso is really nice here too, because you get full articulation there with the leg. You can raise it to a pretty high point without messing with this. Like honestly, if you remove this and use a smaller waist joint, you'd be able to get extreme articulation out of this leg. It goes forward, and I believe, yeah, even this, there's a joint in there that moves the legs along the waist, which can help with getting some more dynamic posing. Now the waist skirt comes in one whole piece. You can obviously do the thing and cut it down the middle like I always do, and it's fine. The torso has some pretty decent articulation as well. Kind of get a good amount of forward movement and back. And then if you kind of even move it up, you can get some more articulation. But if you move it down where it's more resting on the actual waist, you'll get less articulation, but you still get a lot of good articulation for a torso. I think it's slightly less than the RX-78-2 Origin type, but it's still good nonetheless. The thrusters on the back here, these are all on a ball joint, so these work pretty well, or on a ball joint polycap, but these are fixed on the side, which is fine. I really don't have any issues with that. The hands have standard articulation for a high grade, so nothing to really talk about there. All in all, articulation is better than normal. I would say for a high grade, it is about a 9.5. The decals, the nice thing is that there's no color correction. This is just a straight decal sheet. Now this is the kit or the decal sheet that you get straight up with the FSD. It's a lot of white decals to contrast the black, and then orange to kind of match the jewel here, the chin, and even part of the eyes. It's really good, and there's a lot of third-party options as well. I believe G Rework and Delpy both have options for the decal. So enough on that. You guys kind of know my thing. As long as it doesn't have color correction, I'm pretty happy with it. And the only thing you can even consider color correction for this kit, the eyes, the little waist arrow, and the cameras. So I want to start off with saying some comparisons to other kits. This is close, but not quite to the RX-78-2 Gundam the Origin type. I know I've been bringing that up a lot. And really that has to do with the leg area here. Now for a possible paint scheme, I'm pretty much keeping this the same colors. I'm probably going to make some of the gray areas actually a desert tan. And then I might take some of these darker gray areas and make them an olive drab. Like either the like bicep area or more of the forearm section. I'll choose one of those pieces to color olive drab. or I might even do the Vensat color. I want to make it more of a real type version. And it's pretty much there. And that way the olive drab and the tan will still work with the orange decals. That's my overall paint scheme plan. For customization plans, I pretty much intend to use these cannons. Now, I might take this beam rifle and mod it with the machine gun that it comes with to kind of make a heavy machine gun variant by cutting this one down down half here and putting it on the front half here, like cutting this off, putting it on there, kind of making like almost like a heavy machine gun. But I also don't feel like it's weird because I don't feel like a heavy machine gun is truly heavy in the UC universe. I think it should just be a heavy beam cannon. And alternately, I do want to show off this weapon that I've gotten from Heavy Weapon Systems. I'm at least going to prime and paint this up. I don't know if I'm going to use it with this kit or another kit, because this special ops team is supposed to kind of be after Unicorn, like slightly after. So it's going to have, I want these suits to also show like signs of modernization. I'm likely going to use either a Kotobukiya shield or a 30-minute mission shield to replace this on the heaviest version of it. Now, the nice thing is that this kit is modular, and that's why I like it. So I might do a couple different layouts for this kit, depending. Like I might do a high mobility layout. So this will probably be more of a squad leader type Gundam. So that way you can actually go and take part in multiple roles and be a part of multiple teams. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for this kit. And getting into the overall rating. Now, this is the bread and butter review. So I'll get right into it. For cleanup, I would say for a high grade, it was about a 5 or 6. I would say you're getting average seam lines, and I wasn't experiencing a whole lot of seam lines throughout the kit or difficulty with nub marks at all, minus that foot area. But for seam lines, there were a couple difficult ones, like on the shields and on the weapons, that kind of took me way longer than I expected it to take. That's kind of where it loses some of those points, but I don't think the amount was below average. Now assembly went together great. I had absolutely no issues with assembling this kit, other than some user issues. The only difficulty I was experiencing is with some of the poly caps, and that's just a general design issue across high grades, and I don't want to hold it against this kit. So I would say it was probably about a 10. And this is after also cutting pegs, keep in mind. For surface details and color separation, 10. There's no color separation decals, and not only that, the surface details are very good because it is a Gundam the Origins kit. Now, with it being a dark color, and if you're panel lining, you might want to use a lighter gray or some other color to contrast the black, because the black panel lining really won't show up well, period. But something lighter like a gray or like a white will show up really well in your kit. So that's what I would go with for panel lining it. For articulation, again, about an 8. I know I already touched on it, but I would say about an 8, 8.5, because it loses some points around that ankle area. For gimmicks, probably an 8.5 or 9, because there are some really cool high grade kits that have insane gimmicks, but this comes with a lot of options, and a lot of customization ideas, and even the weapons and the shields and everything have their own little gimmicks that are really nice. So I'm going to say probably about a 9. I'm going to just go with a 9 on that. For kit decals, 10 for a high grade, because most of the time you don't even get decals, and this has an entire real grade-esque or master grade-esque decal sheet. And it's also easy. It gets bonus points because it has third-party decal or third-party water slides that are out there, and Bandai has their own set of water slide decals for this kit. So yeah, I would say overall rating for this kit is probably an 8.5. Where it loses points heavily is the cleanup area, but everything else, and articulation a little bit. So I would say that's pretty much where it loses some of its points, but it's either 8.5 or a 9 overall. I would say this is a a definite kit that if you're a high grade builder and you want some more of that articulation and posing capability, to include it in your kit or in your collection. As well as having, it's always nice to have extra weapons and extra capabilities to customize other kits too, which if you're not using everything for this kit, or you're not trying to look for that swappability or modularity for this kit, that it's definitely top 10 for having extra pieces. So, and a lot of the Origin kits are like that. So that's pretty much all I have on this kit and on this review pilot. As always, thank you for stopping by the hangar. I appreciate your time. If you really liked this video, do the subscribe thingy. But otherwise, as always, pilots, sortie out, hobby on, and I'll see you on the next one.